Today we're going to be reviewing the new horror movie, The Boogeyman, or The Bogeyman. I think it's pronounced The Boogeyman. This movie is adapted from a Stephen King novel, and basically the cliff notes of this movie is there's a creature that hides in the dark and kills your children and you. And once he kills everyone in one house, he'll just move on to the next house and he kind of takes over that house. And he just hides in the dark. He can't go into the light, but he's always in the dark, and he's just lurking in the darkness waiting for you to go to sleep so he can murder you. The premise of the movie isn't actually that bad. Setting all that up, my expectations for this movie was actually nothing because I didn't even know it was coming out. I wanted to see the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie, but it was all booked up. So I was like, alright, well, I'm here now. Might as well watch this. Did it disappoint me? Like I said, no expectations going into horror movies. For most horror movies, I have zero expectations because half of them are just awful and the rest of them are just mediocre. Like, I can't think of too many more horror movies that would rank in like my top 50 movies of all time. This movie is somewhere of a cross between like Smile and The Babadook. Like it's somewhere in the middle. It's like a amalgamation of some of the best and worst parts of those movies, and it's like they try to take bits from each, and I don't know, it kind of feels like a worse version of Smile, even though there's not too many overlaps. It does kind of feel like that. Anyway, let's talk about the good things about this movie. The first thing is the acting is very good. I think all the actors did a good job. Most of the things they do, pretty good. You can't tell that the acting, there's no real bad acting in it. Like a lot of horror movies, the acting is horrible, but in this, it's actually pretty good. The creature, the boogeyman, is actually kind of creepy. Like, he is kind of scary. Like, if you look at him, you go, yeah, he's disgusting. He looks like something out of a horror game, to be fair. Like, I haven't seen too many things like this in a movie, although I haven't watched that many horror movies. I think he's a pretty scary monster to have. And the final decent thing about this movie is that, the story isn't terrible. It's a pretty tropey horror movie story, like the mother dies and then the kids are in therapy, and they kind of think the monster isn't real, but it turns out being real. It's very, very typical horror movie stuff. And yeah, the story isn't terrible. I wouldn't say it's good, but it isn't terrible. And for a horror movie, that's an achievement because most horror movie stories are awful. Now let's get into the bad stuff, because there is a lot of bad stuff about this movie. Don't get it twisted. Just because I haven't been super mean to it so far doesn't mean I'm not going to. So the first bad thing about this movie, well, I mean, some people wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but for me it is. I like things to be a bit more original. I don't like to see repeats upon repeats of shit. And this just feels like another cookie cutter horror movie. It has every single horror movie trope you could think of, Yes, it's eerie and dark and all that good stuff, but the story, like I said, it isn't great. The characters are stupid. Like, they're so stupid. They just do the typical horror movie stuff. The whole premise of this movie is that the boogeyman can't go in to the light. He hides in the dark. For some reason, no character in this movie thinks, bro, I got a phone. It's got a fucking flashlight on it, bro. I can just use that to steer it away from me. No, they just whip their phone out. They're on phone calls. They're texting people, but flashlights aren't a thing. I guess a flashlight doesn't exist in this verse. The law, someone just didn't invent a flashlight and they don't use it, and it's so annoying. It's just so annoying that the characters are so stupid in some aspects. Just use a flashlight. Like, for some reason, one lady just lights candles all up in her house, but she doesn't use a flashlight. Why? Brother, you got lights. You pay the electricity bill. Just turn the lights on. I guess that would defeat the purpose of the movie. I don't know. Seems like a pretty bad weakness for the creature to have, yet no one takes advantage of this for some reason. The only way to stop it is the fire. Not a real light, the fire, Also in this movie, there's quite a few pointless characters. Like, characters that just shouldn't be there and they have no significance to the story. Like, the main protagonist just shares some friends and they're just there. Like, you could have cut all the scenes with them in. It makes no difference to the story. Zero. Like, absolutely zero. Like, all of those characters, they should have just saved some money and not had them in the movie, to be honest, because they're just there. They just take up my time. They waste my precious seconds of life with these characters who have no significance. Also, the dad in this movie, he just disappears for like half the movie. He's just not there. I don't know what's going on because he works from home. So why he's not home, I don't understand. Like, he just disappears for half the movie while the monsters are terrorizing his children. He's just gone. Like, where is he? What is he doing? He's just not there. I don't know what's going on. It's like maybe they didn't pay him enough to be there for all the hours it would have needed to have him in other scenes. Like, he's also kind of stupid, and it makes me angry, Like, there's one scene where like he gets a call from his door and he's like, yeah, just don't go in the house. And he's like, oh, I'm not going in the house, but he's already just walked into the house. You're like, okay, bro, like, sure. And I understand for horror movies you kind of have to suspend the disbelief a little bit. And I do, but still, some of these things are just stupid, And the biggest sin that this movie commits is that it's boring, bro. It's just boring. A movie can be bad, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's boring. This movie is fucking boring, bro. Like, there was many times I was just on my phone looking through Twitter or some shit. And it's not because I have ADHD or some shit. I might have ADHD, but that's besides the point. This movie is so boring. For large portions of it, It's like, we didn't need this. We didn't need this in here. We didn't need these pointless characters. We didn't need this pointless tangent. We could have just got to the point. And it's not even that long of a movie, because these days, a lot of movies are 2 hours plus. This movie is like an hour and 40 minutes, and it feels longer than that. And like I said, it kind of feels like it's trying to be like Smile. Like, they have bits of it in there, but it feels like a worse version of Smile. And I wasn't the biggest fan of Smile. Less, I think it was a decent horror movie, but I wouldn't still pass it above like a 6.5 out of 10. This feels like a worse version of that. It's kind of like similar to the Babadook, but even the Babadook was better, and that's not really a good movie either. So yeah, it's just a typical horror movie. And if you like typical horror movies, then I guess you should go watch this. You'll probably enjoy it. I mean, like I said, not for me. Kind of boring throughout. You know, there's a lot of bits they could have just cut out, and it would have made the movie move a lot better and smoother. Rating this movie out of 10. Rating this movie out of 10, I would give it like a 5.5. I can't give it a 6. A 6 is above average, right? This movie is the most average horror movie you could ever make. Like, there is nothing that separates this from like the hundreds of typical horror movies you've ever seen. This one you could just throw in there and forget about it. I doubt I'll ever watch this again. It will probably never cross my mind again after I finish this video. Like, it will never cross my mind again. It was just average and boring. And that's just my opinion. But yeah, if you've seen it, let me know in the comments what you think. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.